So I haven't really been playing new releases for a few years now. Around 2020, kind of fell off the boat, fell off the horse a little bit, with the exception of Animal Crossing New Horizons that year. This year, for the first time, that has changed. I put down the 3DS, I put down the Vita, and I've been playing some games that have actually come out. So I've got 3 Game of the Years for you. Games of the Year? Third one is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. In a lot of ways, this is, it still feels like kind of an expansion pack to Breath of the Wild, but I don't really think that's a bad thing. I played Breath of the Wild primarily for the puzzle solving, for the exploration, and a lot of that has held up and expanded in the right ways, I think, with Tears of the Kingdom, with the new shrines, the new mechanics that they introduced to make the shrines still feel fresh, in my opinion. In addition, the Sky Islands and the depths and the dungeons, to a lesser extent, also make the exploration still feel kind of new, and a lot of the towns being changed in enough ways make it feel fresh. So that's kind of why Tears of the Kingdom, as much as I didn't finish the game, I still haven't finished Breath of the Wild, I don't know that I ever will. That's my third game of 2023. My second is Chia, which in a lot of ways mechanically is very similar to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but tonally, in terms of its narrative, in terms of the personalities you find along the way, its wittiness. I love that aspect of Chia. And I had a great time getting around New Caledonia, and now I actually really want to go to New Caledonia. My number 1 game of 2023 is Jusant, which is pretty much entirely about climbing. Maybe you get into rock climbing. All 3 of these games are really about climbing, but it's got no vocal narrative in the same way that Rime had no. Rime didn't do a great job of it, to be fair, but Journey, like a lot of games that do that show don't tell really well in a very compressed package. Admittedly, Jusant has a lot of journals that you find along the way, and that adds a lot of narrative depth, I think, to the game. But mechanically, it feels awesome. And the reason I've played so many of these games is because of this thing. I'm not saying that I've got a Steam Deck, I'm really happy to have a Steam Deck, whatever, I am. But the fact that we can finally play PC games on the go and not have to deal with kind of crappy Switch ports and kind of crappy Switch pricing, I think that's really exciting, and I'm really excited to see more PC games that I get into again next year, and hopefully more people get back into PC gaming in this way as well.
Hey there! Have you heard of Pizza Tower? It's a game that's flown under the radar, which is a shame because it might be one of 2023's best games. You play as Peppino Spaghetti, a kinda questionable stereotype of an Italian pizza chef whose struggling pizza restaurant is under threat by the Pizza Tower. And with the power of momentum and anxiety, Peppino is going to destroy that tower. But you're not here for the story. You're here for the gameplay and the mechanics, and this is where Pizza Tower really shines. The game is effectively a love letter to the Wario Land series, specifically the Game Boy Advance's Wario Land 4, where every level sees you reach a dead end and then run all the way back to the start, and it is exciting as hell. Yet that's not the thing that makes Pizza Tower really work. As soon as you get Peppino moving, you realize something. It's much faster than Wario Land 4, and there's a ton of moves to help keep the momentum going, from running up walls, uppercuts that act as double jumps, diving jumps, and so much more. You have such fine control over Peppino that he feels like an absolute dream to control, creating this incredible sense of flow as you're just barreling through enemies in the levels. Couple that with an incredible look and animation that channels the best and most disturbing of 90s animation, with one of the most intense soundtracks in the game this year, and you've got a hell of an experience. In a year where games like Baldur's Gate 3 or Alan Wake 2 are redefining how games really should be, sometimes we just need to return to tradition, and Pizza Tower is easily one of the year's best games.
There have been so many great games released in 2023, or so I've heard. In my mind, the gaming year peaked on the 25th of January with the announcement and surprise release of the rhythm action game Hi-Fi Rush. It wholeheartedly commits to its rhythm action concept. Combat takes place on a melodic bent as you swing and strike to the beat. The whole world and its inhabitants sway in time to the music. And shoutouts to the needle drops that appeal entirely to my Gen Y ears. But aside from this, Hi-Fi Rush knows it's a weird genre fusion and leads as hard as you can into it. It is a properly funny game, whether it be the physical slapstick being inflicted upon the main character or the deftly applied fourth wall breaking moments. The game's writing and sense of self very quickly won me over. It is, in a way, similar to a catchy pop song. They may sound simple, but the truly great ones exude effort and expertise. Every note is designed to hook you in. And the same can be said about Hi-Fi Rush. It has well and truly been stuck in my head all year.
Look, there's a lot of games that came out. I've only had so much time. I love Spider-Man. It is my thing. I'm literally wearing Spider-Man socks right now. I love Miles Morales. I love the first game. And unfortunately, Spider-Man 2 did not do it for me. As much as I wanted to say, the open world was amazing, the addition of the wingsuit was, like fun, even though some people would think it's cheating. It is a big city, and it is great to be able to traverse in any way that you want without the loading screens, which was a technical marvel. The story was lacking. There were bits of community that were there, but for the most part, it didn't have the same heart that I loved from the first. And yes, even the second game, I know most people didn't like it, but it was great. It was a lot of fun. I wish it was my game of the year, but it's actually Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3, surprising nobody, it is on everybody's list. Yes, it is an indie game. I love Dungeons & Dragons. It is so much fun, and I honestly didn't realize it was Dungeons & Dragons until I started playing even more, and yes, the bear scenes are kind of what got me into it, but after actually getting into it and seeing the story, the world, the acts, everything you can do, it is something that you can play over and over again because there's just so much you miss, so much you want to miss because you want to make the choices that your character that you create is going to make. It is beautiful and it is something that has been clearly loved by the people making it, and it is my game of the year because I will go back to it. It's my Stardew Valley. It is going to be that thing I come to when I'm bored, when I just want to play a little bit, and it's, my game of the year. Sorry, not sorry.
Now, before I jump into my top 3, I have to confess that there have been plenty of games I still have not found the time for. So to prevent people getting mad on the TL or beating my ass into QRTs or various other Muskbook-aligned acronyms, I declare that the following games will not be appearing on my Game of the Year list. Alright, we done? Let's begin with number 3, Hi-Fi Rush. It's a really engrossing musical hack and slash with a very colourful world and an exuberant cast. If you vibed with games like No Straight Roads or the basic but methodical stylings of Don't Nod's Remember Me, you'll have a good idea of what Hi-Fi Rush is going for from a mechanical perspective. As for its aesthetic, it's in a league of its own. It may feel too much like a proof of concept at times and isn't too long of an experience, but personally, I love Hi-Fi Rush the way it is, an experimental romp with a humble scope but an everlasting impression. Now, my second game goes to Street Fighter 6. I'm including this one because I've played this for around about 300 hours, and also I find that fighting games tend to get snubbed a fair bit in the critical space. Now, the FGC seem to have no problems with it, but games media often bemoans the lack of good single-player offerings, which have been a fairly consistent trend over the recent years. Thankfully, Street Fighter 6 shipped with a bevy of modes that cover almost all demographics regardless of how casual or sweaty you might be. World Tour is a goofy single-player mode that could only be endearingly described as scuffed Yakuza, while multiplayer lobbies, avatar customization, and practical training modes even out the end product. The base mechanics do a great job at encouraging player expression, in particular the drive meter pushing the player to find their sweet spot and expending resources for whatever they please, be it all-out rushdown, zoning pressure, or even defense, and this creates a great risk and reward dynamic without relying too hard on passive comeback mechanics or removing player agency too much. Now, my number 1 game goes to Armored Core 6. As I celebrate Hi-Fi Rush for its short but sweet experience, I give the crowning achievement of 2023's best game to one that's gone the other way in scope and vision. Armored Core hasn't really seen an entry for the past 10 years, but From Software's Mech Combat series has come a long way since. Rubicon is a sweeping and visually stunning stage set for plundering megacorps, and as a pilot, your directive is to explore a diverse spread of build and weapon types, hopefully finding any advantage you can get across the many fast-paced, high-stake mech skirmishes you'll face as well. And if you succeed, well, brace yourself for the biggest dopamine hit recorded in existence. While it looks like there won't be anything Souls-related dropping for some time, it's nice to see a renewed interest of From Software's dormant franchises, and Armored Core 6 perfectly rises to the occasion like a phoenix from the ashes. It's a good year for sure, but the honorable mention goes to the one programmer responsible for the Model 3 emulation for Daytona USA 2 featured in Like a Dragon Gaiden. After 25 years, we finally now have an almost arcade-perfect port of one of the most important arcade racing games of all time, and primarily the reason why my critical path progress in Like a Dragon Gaiden has come to a screeching halt. Here's to you.
Well, what a year it's been. Quite literally, I think we made one video in a year, or at least I did. The other more productive members of New Game Plus have been making videos. So you know what I did this year with my well-earned sabbatical? I literally finished, I think, 28 games. So I played a lot this year. It wasn't all from this year, but there was a lot of good stuff from this year. RoboCop was a real surprise. I was actually genuinely surprised that a licensed property at a technically a budget price was really true to the original, the actual property itself, and it played well and it was great. Frog Detective was great. I mean, again, it's literally a year of Game Pass because I genuinely don't understand why everyone doesn't have it. I understand that we have concerns about the monopolistic nature of Microsoft, but man, the amount of value I've gotten out of my $20 a month. But with all that said, my game of the year is Tears of the Kingdom. As much as I didn't like Breath of the Wild, as much as there was lots of stuff about Breath of the Wild I didn't like, Tears of the Kingdom fixed every single thing that I did not like about Breath of the Wild. The actual engagement with Zelda for once was good. She wasn't just a fetch quest. Her sacrifice meant something. There was a whole lot of things I could talk about and how much that game was better. The 3 levels works really well. The mechanics of the first one, which obviously felt like a little bit of a, hey, I've just figured out we can do physics puzzles on Unity, so we're going to do those in the first game, actually became an important part of the game. And you could not use them if you wanted, but they were so essential. And again, it just allowed such creativity, besides obviously all of the giant wooden dicks that everyone decided they were funny making. But yeah, honestly, I didn't think I would be going full normie bait and saying Tears of the Kingdom. Here we are. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is my game of the year.